But ultimately, what I think allows for actual like investment and attachment is when the story works. And I think that's the part that's neglected here. And when I see like a parallel, like two Sonics and two Robotniks, right? Who both are kind of in similar situations where they're kind of reflections of each other who have taken different paths based on past experiences and stuff like that. I'm kind of smelling a theme here, right? Like that's where that would go.
They mention choice a lot throughout the movie, from sort of Tom's discussion with Sonic to sort of Sonic's conversation with Shadow about like making the right choices, and like Shadow, Sonic like saying about like, you know, trying to make the good choices. But I don't feel like it was fleshed out enough throughout this, and I don't feel like it weaved into the story well enough to kind of like give that satisfying feeling by the end, to have sort of that whole conflict resolution between Sonic and Shadow, and where he's like kind of like explaining about like, you know, making the right choices.
There's not much of a choice to make, right? It's not like there's a real dilemma for any of them, right? Like Sonic talks about having to make the right choices or good choices, but that's more like along the veins of he needs to grow up, right? Like he doesn't take things seriously, he doesn't take responsibility, and it's time he starts doing that. But that's not what the story is about, right?
I was like, the only person that actually made a brave choice was Knuckles, in fact, in terms of like telling him where the emerald was for him to power up. It was because, you know, he knew it was the wrong decision for him to, you know, use the emerald in the fit of like vengeance or rage or whatever. But he trusted Sonic enough, he trusted his friend enough that he'd eventually make the right choice. So he, like, in that situation had a choice of like, do I help him out and like, you know, have faith in like my friend to be able to sort of not kind of like see that, you know, this isn't the path he wants to go down, or do I just like not tell him where it is or where? Like, I feel like that was a moment where it was like a real kind of like profound choice to be made.
It's just played for comedy, right? He's sworn this oath to defend kind of the emerald or whatever it is with his life, and now he has to defend it against his friend. And then Sonic wins and he takes the emerald. It doesn't seem like there's consequences for that decision, or any stakes, or any downside, or anything like that, right?
I think what takes away from the choice is maybe knowing that there was always a happy ending, or like it wasn't going to end badly, because like the real choice would have been, again, if this was like maybe like a more mature story where, you know, it wasn't a kid's movie, was, you know, Sonic could really use this power up for vengeance in the wrong way, and like maybe like kill Shadow and like completely change who he is as a character, and that's what sort of Knuckles was maybe trying to protect him from. But
that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, and two, it's a kids movie, so you know that that's never going to happen. I don't think you know, that was never going to be a case. So that kind of like takes away from the decision. It takes away from like the potential risk of giving him this power up.
Yeah, so we have this idea of making good choices, right? Like Sonic is told this multiple times. Knuckles has to make the choice of whether or not to uphold his oath, right, and prevent Sonic from getting the emerald. Robotnik makes the choice to turn, like, he wants family, but he turns against his only remaining family to do the right thing, to save the world. Shadow also has this thing about needing to make good choices, and he hasn't so far. But ultimately, I don't think the story is really about any of that, right? Like, there's nothing, like, the resolution is not based on characters making the right choices. Characters don't change in a substantial way, where they initially make bad choices and in the end they make good choices, or anything like that, right? So this seems like just complete window dressing to me.
Do you know what? I'll give it a slight pass because it attempted. Because, I mean, we've discussed so many movies this year where it's not even like thought. I know you're going to say it's not done well here, and we probably shouldn't give too much praise for this kind of like half-hearted attempt at doing so. But then like there's so many times in like movies that we reviewed this year where it's just non-existent at all. So I'll give it some blight for having the consistent theme in there, but it just wasn't tied together as sort of kind of like neatly as it probably should have been.
You're right that some movies have tried even less, but that's not really...
It's not high praise for this movie. But
yeah,